Good morning, Professor and classmates. The following presentation will be established on the documentary Making a Murder, which is based on the story of Stephen Avery, a Wisconsin man who was wrongfully convicted and served 18 years in prison for sexual assault and attempted murder, a crime which he did not commit. This is an important documentary because it shows how wrong the justice system can be at times. It is basically the powerful versus the powerless in the context of the American criminal justice system. The hope of this documentary was so that the story of Avery will help eliminate larger problems within the criminal justice system. How accurate is the documentary? The documentary has been highly questioned about how accurate the series really is. Many of the viewers have their doubts about it. The truth is, I personally believe it is accurate to a certain extent only. They made certain changes for their series, such as toning down the past crimes of Stephen Avery. The reason behind toning down his past was basically to make him look more of a sympathetic figure, like a more innocent person. For example, the first episode of Making a Murder did mention where the 20-year-old Avery and his friends went through some sort of phase where they called it youth and stupidness, a phase that led them to charges with animal cruelty. But what the show didn't mention was how clearly cruel the whole thing actually was. In the show, the animal cruelty incident was portrayed as Avery just having fun, some youthful fun, holding the cat over a bonfire, assumingly to watch it freak out when it lands on the other side and accidentally misjudge his throw. What actually happened was that in reality, Avery and his friends found some gasoline and oil and drenched the cat with that and threw it in the fire to watch it burn. They pleaded no contest to pouring gasoline and oil over Avery's cat and throwing it into the fire. Therefore, in that sense, that is how I believe they tried toning down his past history. Small changes like those, I believe, were the small things that I believe were not as accurate. But as far as the trial, the phone calls, the evidence they provided in the documentary, I do believe those were pretty accurate. Another way I believe the documentary was a little inaccurate was the way they portrayed his relationship with Jody to make him look like this honorable, more representable person. There had actually been some fireworks between the two. Avery was even arrested in 2004 and was ordered to stay away from Jody for 72 hours for violating a disorderly conduct ordinance after an altercation with Jody. It was those small things like that that they did try to change that made the documentary a little inaccurate, or so I believe. Were there omissions that should have been included? Making a Murder does lead an audience down a path filled with pre-convinced notions to an ultimate destination that is strongly in favor of Stephen Avery. So yes, there were many omissions that were actually left out of the documentary. There were bits and pieces of evidence that Making a Murder omitted that did not look too good on on Avery. A few of the things that were left out were residue DNA from Avery on the hood latch found in the vehicle. Unfortunately for Avery, this matches up with the victim's statement that Avery had lifted the hood of the vehicle after they had moved it and disconnected the battery cable. Had those things not been omitted from the series, may have left more audience questioning Avery and his innocence. Why hide such evidence if you are innocent? Why the need to keep those things from the audience is what questions everything. Would I recommend this documentary to a non-criminal justice person? I would most definitely encourage people to watch this video. All people of criminal justice, non-criminal justice people. The reason why I would encourage people to watch this documentary is to show that not only people of color are wrongfully convicted, like many believe that only people of color go to jail, only they get wrongfully convicted because they are of color or because they believe cops are racist or judges, everybody. Well, I would encourage people to watch this video because it truly shows how all of those things are just not true. It's not just people of color who get wrongfully convicted. Stephen Avery is a white male who was wrongfully convicted for sexual assault and murder and did spend 18 years of his life in prison for a crime he did not commit. For the people in the criminal justice field, I would certainly encourage you to watch this video. This video goes to show how the evidence and cases need to be more carefully reviewed and not just jump into conclusions so easily based on someone's background or history or any of those sort of things. Another reason why I would recommend this video is not only to show that only people of color are wrongfully committed, but also to show how the criminal justice system can make mistakes and that not everyone is perfect. Sadly, someone's life was at stake in this case, but we are all human and we all make mistakes no matter which career path we choose. They're not perfect. We're bound to make mistakes at one point or another. I would suggest that people really watch it because there are so many people who believe that cops or the criminal justice is not allowed to make mistakes, and it's reality. It does happen, and this case goes to show how far and how much people do make mistakes. Although this documentary does not resolve the question of who killed Teresa, the photographer who stopped by the Avery resident property to take photos of the vehicle and then disappeared, it does very convincingly make the argument that Teresa's death did not get a fair, unbiased investigation and that Stephen Avery was wronged by the criminal justice system. And sadly, although this documentary does not close the case of Teresa, it does go to show how cases take a lot of time, a lot of evidence, and money as well. It goes to show how or why people should be patient when it comes to solving cases. Many people feel like if they are on top of the law enforcement that they are gonna make things better by rushing the case. Well, in reality, it might be making things worse because cases and crimes do take time to solve. There is a lot of evidence that needs to be proved. There is a lot of things that have to be really carefully evaluated. So the more patient people are, the better the outcome of the case, that most likely will be, because there shouldn't be any rush to solve any cases. I mean, these crimes do take time. So patience is the key, because like the documentary Making a Murder, it was more about justice rather than the truth. It seemed as if all they wanted was to imprison somebody for the crime that took place, to find some sort of justice for Teresa, even if it meant imprisoning the wrong person like they did. This documentary goes to show that had there not been so much pressure to find this person, maybe they would have had the right person in behind bars instead of the wrong person. Why did they feel so pressured to find justice for Teresa? Well, many reasons, but one in particular was because she was part of the law enforcement, one of her family members at least. So maybe that's why they felt like they had to find somebody, and even if it meant putting anybody behind bars, just so that they can say, okay, justice has been served, when in reality they put the wrong person behind bars, and he suffered for 18 long years for a crime he did not commit, just so that there could be justice for this person. If I were to ever be in a situation like that, I would prefer the truth instead of justice. What is the whole point of putting someone who did not commit the crime behind bars, like in this case? I would want someone who to pay for the crime, to pay for their mistakes, to pay for what they did wrong, rather than just have the wrong person sitting behind bars and have the other one free. Overall, the documentary Making Murder is a wonderful documentary. I highly recommend it to anyone who is interested about learning that case.